Good morning, everybody. Hi, I'm Dirk Draper. I'm the president and CEO of the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC, and we're really glad that you joined us this morning for today's Chamber Connect. We've got a topic that you can tell is of great interest by the number of folks who are on the call with us this morning. It's about the resilience of our outdoor recreation industry. If many of you, I'm sure, are like me, you maybe came to Colorado Springs or you stayed in Colorado Springs because of the access we have to our outdoors and the importance that it plays in your life. And so today, our topic is to focus on the resiliency of our outdoor recreation industry. It's something that's of great importance to us at the Chamber and EDC, and our speakers today, I think you'll find, are very passionate about this as well. Our program is going to go until 12:30 today. It's an interactive session. We encourage you to ask questions, not during the speakers, unless you post them in chat. That's a good way to do that. You can send it to either everyone or to my colleague, Emma Mitchell, and she will curate those and present them to our speakers at the end of our session today. You can see, if you look in the top left of your screen, we're recording today's session, and we'll post it on our website next week. So you can share it with others, or if you want to go back and revisit any of the content, you'll be able to do so. I'd ask you to just take a minute too. On your screen, look in the bottom left, you'll find your image there. And if your name and company affiliation aren't showing already, just please do that. If you right click and do a rename, you'll see that as one of the choices. Go ahead and help us identify who's on speaker or who's on the participation. It helps our speakers know who's in the audience. And it also helps you be eligible to win a special prize that we'll do at the end of the program. You may have seen in local media, the Chamber and EDC recently made a commitment to advocate for increased teleworking in the business community. This was a request made by the State Public Health Department and the Governor's Office last week as a critical step to help us mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Since early April, the Chamber and EDC has worked with the county's health department to balance the health of our business community and with the health of our citizens. And if you're paying attention at all to media, you'll know that our caseloads of COVID have risen starting last month in July, and we're taking steps that we need to help to bend that curve back below the high level of incidence that we have right now. We launched a package of resources yesterday called Clocking In from the Kitchen Table, Tools to Help Your Company Effectively Telecommute. The package consists of an interactive infographic toolkit. We curated information from some best practices companies and organizations are using. And tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we're going to host a telephone town hall with Employers Council and with Mike Duran. Mike is a member of our board. He'll be our board chair next year. And he's the CEO of Altea, one of our good tech companies here in Colorado Springs. That's posted on our website, on our COVID resources page. You can find the toolkit and you can register for the town hall. And I think Emma's just posted that in the chat line. You can find that information. We hope you'll join us tomorrow morning as well. We also hope you'll join us 2 weeks from now for our next Chamber Connect. It's on Thursday, August 20th. Very timely topic: retaining and attracting customers during the pandemic. Let's talk about today's program though. Today's Chamber Connect is sponsored by BBSI. They're a local, high-touch PEO, professional employer organization, who advocates on behalf of business owners and can handle the needs you have for managing HR aspects of your business, and particularly for small business. The Colorado Springs team of BBSI are subject matter experts. They provide consulting services to help you navigate, help small and medium-sized businesses navigate through the challenges in these areas: workers' compensation, risk management, human resources, payroll, talent acquisition, business consulting, compliance, and to help you mitigate risk in those areas and to help your company scale for growth. So PEOs can help be a source of information and offload some of that administrative work that you're doing at your company. You can reach out to Kevin Davis at BBSI. I'm going to post his contact information in our chat line right now. You'll see this. Reach out to Kevin if you're interested in more information. He commits to giving you a zero pressure discussion on how they can assist with your company needs. And now that's the end of our PSAs for now. Let's go straight to our presentation. Today's topic is the resiliency of our outdoor recreation industry. I'm going to hand it over to Becky Lineweber with the Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance to introduce our panelists. Becky, over to you.
Thanks so much, Dirk. I really appreciate the Chamber and EDC hosting this event for us. We are excited to have these business leaders share with you about what's been happening in the outdoor recreation industry and impacting their businesses. So without further ado, let's introduce our panel. So Jim Smith, let's start with you. If you would share with us your name, your company, the type of business you are, and how long you've been around.
Yeah, so Jim Smith with Mountain Chalet. We are a specialty outdoor retailer. Focus on hiking and backpacking and ice climbing and rock climbing and backcountry skiing, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. We've been around for 52 years, and if most people know, we've moved recently over to Nevada a couple of years ago.
All right, thanks, Jim. Jason, how about you?
Yeah, Jason Mezzi, owner of Routes Outfitter, a new store here in town, and we are an outdoor culture retailer focusing on running, riding, and hiking. And so for us, that really means launching with a good focus on a fleet of rental bikes that we really bring in a great quality of demo bikes, shoes, and apparel on the west side of town near Manitou Springs.
Thanks, Jason. Micah, share with us about your business.
Yeah, my name is Micah Rice, and I work for a company called Sports Strategies, and currently working on behalf of the Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance to create the Pikes Peak Apex, which is a 4-day mountain bike challenge here on the slopes of Pikes Peak. This is the first year that we've run this. We picked quite a year to do that, of course. This is the first year of the event, but I've lived here and been running bike races here in town for over 10 years, including an 8-year stint at USA Cycling running their national championship events around the country. And we're excited to be able to work on something right here in my own hometown.
Thanks so much. We're excited about that too, Mike, and look forward to hearing a little bit more. David Lineweber, you are next.
My name's David Lineweber. I own Angler's Cubby, Colorado Tackle Pro, and Pikes Peak Outfitter. And it's 3 companies that kind of sit on the corner of Highway 24 and 21st Street. I've been in the outdoor industry for about 40 years now, and Angler's Cubby's been around for almost that amount of time. And it's good to be in the in the Colorado Springs community. We're a fly fishing business. We have Colorado Tackle Pro is a bait and tackle shop, and Pikes Peak Outfitter does kayaks and rents kayaks and that sort of thing. We also have a fly fishing outfitting business, so we take people fly fishing and classes and all sorts of stuff. So.
All right, thank you, David. So I hope you all can see we have a diverse panel. We've got some new business, old business. We've got a cool sporting event. So we're going to hear from these different perspectives. And to start us out, let's talk about what's been happening with the impact from the pandemic. How have your operations been impacted? And Jim, I'm going to throw this over to you first at Mountain Chalet. Tell us a little bit what's been happening with Mountain Chalet since this pandemic has hit us all.
Yeah, I mean, it started obviously in March, and being downtown, our colleagues of restaurants and bars were starting to close, and we almost felt guilty. We were right next to City Rock, and they were starting to close, and we're like, man, we're open, and everybody else is closing, and who are we? And we had a very long philosophical discussion about whether we should close. So we decided to close, and we converted to appointment shopping only. We did that about a week before the governor shut us down. And they were closed, I guess, for about 7 weeks. We reopened on the 1st, like most of us did. And we decided we required masks immediately. And we controlled the amount of people coming through the door so we could control use of masks, and we controlled the number of bodies in the store. And honestly, right out of the box, people decided that they needed to get outside. We could tell right away that we were going to be busier than we thought we were going to be. We reduced our staff by about half. In fact, for the first couple of weeks, we just went down to my wife and I and one of my managers, and to survive, so to speak. We started selling online. We were doing curbside, maybe when we shouldn't have been, but desperate times call for desperate measures. So we did the best we could to do all those kinds of things. We have an extensive rental equipment business. I took all our rental equipment and sold it, or tried to sell as much of it as we can to generate some cash. We were pretty cash poor for a while. We had maybe 10% cash as a percentage of how much we owed. You know, March and April is when we start to get spring product in for the season, and we're obviously caught off guard. And I think we'll get into it later, but there's a lot of work on our side to communicate with vendors and reach out to every possible financial source you could find. But we kind of made it through, but it was bubblegum and duct tape for a while.
Thanks, Jim. And how about you, David, over at Anglers Covey?
Yeah, we had a similar experience. I mean, March was kind of like, where are we going from here? And then at the end of the month, it was getting scarier and scarier, and then they shut us down, and so we ended up laying off our kind of entire staff, and including myself, and just kind of operated with our family members. So it was me and Becky and Rachel that were just trying to get online orders out, but it was tough because I was staring at all these accounts payables that normally I would be generating cash to be able to pay, and I'm not generating much cash, and it was we were going in debt really, really quick, and it became really obvious that it was going to be a big challenge. And so May 1st was kind of this weird day where in the morning I was like thinking our business was going to be gone. And then we opened, and then we sold 1,000 flies in one day, and all of a sudden the tsunami came, and it's just been off the chart. And it's just crazy how things had kind of flipped for us, but it was just so scary back there in the beginning, and so challenging. But because we were chasing every program we could too, PPP, what's that? What is that? EIDL, EIDG, other grants, this, that, what programs here. I mean, I applied for so many things because it was like I had to figure it out. We were just scrambling. So I was kind of doing all that scrambling work while my daughter was kind of handling what few orders we had. And so that's kind of how we kind of worked through it.
Thanks, David. And I know I do want to get to kind of the supply chain challenges, but let's hop over to Jason as a new business. I want to hear kind of how this impacted you, because Mountain Chalet and Anglers Covey, they've been around a long time. So they've got established vendor relationships and established customer base, and you have neither of those. So how did that impact you?
Right. Yeah. As a new business, I think for me, I've been trying to figure out what's new business reality and what's COVID reality. Because I think that if any of you remember back to maybe your first small business, you know what it takes to weave all the things together. And so COVID has just added an interesting dynamic for us. We started operationally back in September, even though we didn't open a store. And so it was nice for us because we had some vendor supply chain relationships already starting to form, and we had started to figure out the rhythm of those seasonal orders that Jim even mentioned, and we had them all set up. And as a new business, we were actually scheduled to open February 1. Well, as a new business, we hit delays. So, the reality of new business stuff was part of our front end of this year too. But then once COVID started to impact, I think, where we were going, because it became, okay, can we open in March? Well, no, now there's an environmental factor that's actually suppressing our ability to even open. And so it shifted from this just small business reality to now we've actually got a bigger economy of things that we've got to pay more attention to. And David mentioned May 1. For us, May 1 was two things. One, it was what we called our soft launch open. So it was the first time we were opening our doors, but we also had to wait for the governor's permission to do it. So I don't know, how many other small businesses had to wait for governor permission to open their business, but we were in that boat. So a lot of things swirling around there, and really, I think to David's point, when we opened May 1, not knowing what to expect, as a new business, we're hoping 5 people walk through the door all day, or maybe 50, I don't know. But COVID didn't seem to impact that for us, because to David's point, I think that gave people permission to go out and be outside again. And so for us, there was actually some benefit in that. But we definitely saw the impact of just the road to open and how COVID played a part in that.
Yeah, I'm sure those were some unique challenges for you as a new business. And then Micah, what you're trying to do is launch this new event that we haven't even had in the Springs before. So how did the pandemic impact your operations for the race?
Yeah, obviously we've been planning this for a while. We've been working on it for almost 18 months at this point. And this was really going to be a pretty large scale event. This is not a little weekend thing. This is really going to be the biggest mountain bike cycling race on the Front Range ever. So it was a pretty big lift as it was, and it's been an even more difficult lift now with the pandemic. We've really had to change a lot of things. The big expo and the beer garden that we wanted to do for spectators, obviously that's not going to happen this year. That's going to have to wait. Things like an after party downtown, we've kind of changed that to be, instead of a place where everyone can gather and enjoy and have a burger and a beer together, we're probably going to kind of change to a, make your own after party where we give out some gift certificates to some local restaurants and just have people go down there with their own family or friends. And even the start area, we've had to completely change. We're not going to ride out as a group with several hundred people. That's not going to work. So we're having to do single riders or small group starts. And we're working obviously very closely with public health to deal with that. And I've run a lot of events, and very rarely do I get as involved with the public health department as I have had to over the last several months for a cycling event. So there's been a lot of work there, and it does scare off some riders, some potential participants who wanted to come, and whether they're someone that thinks that they might be immunocompromised, or a little bit older of a person that might say, this is not worth the risk. Some people have backed out, but then there's so many races are getting canceled that you've got a lot of people just dying to race. So you got a lot of people excited about it. So we're moving forward. We're one of the few, we're probably actually the largest cycling event in the country at this point, moving forward on the mountain bike side. It's our goal to really build a footprint for what this could look like. We're going to try to do all the things right, and we'll be a best practices, I think, moving forward for a lot of events around the country.
Thanks, Micah. Oh, yeah, okay, I unmuted. Thanks, Micah, appreciate that. And Jim and David, you both mentioned your staff, your employees, and I'm curious, a lot of people who are probably listening into this Chamber Connect, they might be in different industries, but they've had to deal with the challenges of the workforce, keeping them engaged, knowing if they can work from home or not, and the layoff situation. I'd love to hear from both of you. How did you deal with the workforce challenges? And I heard both of you say during the closure, it was just the family. What does that look like today?
Well, it's the same for me. Like David, like most small businesses, we don't have a lot of access to readily available capital. And so you really have to look internal. So, my wife and I, we stopped paying ourselves at the end of February, and we have not paid ourselves since. to build back cash. We probably had a total of 21, 3 employees. Probably half of that's probably part-time. We let part-timers go. We had a couple at-risk people that happened to be part-time, so we let them go. And then I actually had a few people that found some other jobs and they left. So we're less than half of where we were. And it puts a lot of strain on us because, with nothing else to do other than get in the backcountry, I've actually spent a lot of time on the floor. I do anyway, but excessively more. And then since we got busy, I feel like this is very black swan-like. This is really nice to have this much volume, although it's being hampered by the availability of product right now. But I don't believe it to be sustainable. And what I don't want to do is get out over my skis with too much staff or too much expense and then watch the bottom drop out. And so trying to take the extra mile on your own, take some of my employees that I have now, offer overtime for them, which they certainly appreciate, would be great. As soon as we get PPP money, I immediately hired everybody back, but it wasn't busy enough. So what I was having people do is work 3 days in the shop, but then to kind of keep the Mountain Chalet level of service and education going, that I paid them to work from home for a couple days, helping put social media posts together, write articles for our website for content, other ways to engage with the community. Was a way to get them engaged, get them kind of, working to the value of the dollar for which, we were able to pay them at 40 hours. So it's been a struggle. Mountain Chalet, we've been around a long time. We have some really good employees, and our core folks were able to maintain. Some of our core, like I said, part-timers we just had to let go. And they were respectful of it. They certainly understood. As part-timers, they had other means of income anyway, so it actually worked out for us. So right now we're status quo. Like I said, I'm just paying overtime and just giving as many people as hours as they can, because I don't know what's on the other side of this.
Yeah, for us, the first thing we had to do is figure out the HR stuff, because it was all about HR. I mean, helping employees kind of figure out how to do the unemployment and all that kind of stuff. We ended up laying off everyone, really mostly because of the $600 bonus. Everyone could take, they were making more money with that. I was making more money with that bonus than anyone else. And than getting paid. So that was kind of the first thing. But our HR, we hired an HR person to kind of help us, because we actually got frustrated with our PEO that we were with, and we ended up leaving them. And so since we basically fired everybody or got rid of everyone, we actually stopped that employer relationship and started a new one. And that made it a little bit more complicated. And the other thing we did is, it's not always about how do we recoup how we get sales. It's like, how do we don't spend money? And so we kind of did some, and payroll certainly at the heart of that. So we did some introspection, and what we realized in our business and what we were doing is that it would be better for us to maybe eliminate 2 full-time positions and hire a new management position, and then hire seasonal. And that would be a better role for us. So we actually went out and started looking and hired a new manager. And so that was actually pretty exciting. We're actually really excited to have him here. So that was kind of an interesting twist. But we've gone to more seasonal employees, obviously being a fly shop. So that was a little bit of a struggle too. So.
Hey, Becky, I just want to add, this is a kudos to my staff, where they felt, having Chalet been around a long time, a lot of long-time employees, they were hesitant to file for unemployment because they were concerned about the impact on the shop. And I'm like, no, time out. Go file. This is on me. It's not on you. I appreciate the sentiment, but I am begging you, take care of yourself. And if the 600's there, whatever it is, go after that as much as possible. And I was literally pushing and begging folks. David, I'm sure you had the same
Oh,
level
same
of
thing.
employees that we have. It had the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's funny how much of a struggle it was for me to push these people. And to David's point, same thing. Now I'm helping them figure out how to file, go to the right people, exercise every tool that they could find to make sure they were taking care of themselves. But it was a nice sentiment to have them think of themselves as much as the shop itself, which was great.
Yeah, so we actually hired a few back on May 1st to get ready to open. We had no expectation on what it was going to be like. Or were we going to be 30% down? I was thinking optimistically we're going to be 30% down. And for the month of May, we ended up being 40% over last year. So it was a complete flip of what I was thinking. But then we had some other challenges, even with staffing, in that one of our staff member, after about 2 weeks, said, I'm not going to wear a mask anymore. And it was pretty challenging to kind of get into that conversation and say, the governor's mandated that all employees wear a mask. And we are having challenges with customers with masks and, on a daily occurrence. And so it became problematic, particularly since we have an older clientele. We wanted to be sensitive to them also, who was fearful to be out. So there was a big challenge kind of within that whole nature, and losing, he was a key staff member that we lost. And, but he just wasn't, he said, I just can't wear a mask all day, so I'm out.
And that brings up a good point. So the operations, the restrictions that you had to, once you did reopen, what you had to operate under, and Jason, for you, starting a store with restrictions, how did you all deal with that, and how did your customers deal with that?
Right, yeah, and again, going back to what I mentioned about May 1 being our big open, right, we opened under the current guidelines. So we actually had to launch with those in place. And my wife, Kristen, who is also co-owner, she's in the background somewhere listening in. She was just really tuned in to ensure that, we had safe practice for our staff, that we were preparing kind of that safe practice for customers. And again, May 1, we were hoping for at least 5 through the door, so it was a little easier to keep them socially distanced. But we did. We launched under the guidelines, and so we haven't known anything different. That's what's kind of weird for us. And so we've this is the norm right now. But David mentioning the challenge of staff keeping on masks. I think it's that constant kind of self-check and encouraging each other to do that self-check. We've had that too, where folks and the staff that we do have in the store, they wrestle with wearing it all the time. And then interacting with customers, the acoustics there's just random stuff, and it's hard to communicate, and communication is vital for that customer experience. So I think that no difference in that we've wrestled with trying to make sure that we adhere to the standards. It may be just a little different that we haven't known anything otherwise. So when it all lifts, it's kind of like we'll know a totally brand new. We'll go back to the way it should have been. So there's, I guess, my insight from that side.
Yeah, the early days was challenging because we didn't know, we still don't know a great deal about the virus, but we know a heck of a lot more than we did May 1st. And so the whole idea was like, how many times do we have to wipe down the counter?
Right.
Do we have to do it 4 times a day or 10 times a day? Plexiglass, do we have to put that up? The signage, 6 feet apart everywhere, signage all over the store. And then, eventually I heard about steaming, that steaming clothes was actually something. So we put up signs, and we started all clothes. We asked people to leave clothing in the dressing room, and we would go in there periodically during the day and steam clothes. So, what a different aspect. It was just constantly that kind of juggling, and then scouring online for any new information about anything, right? So it was a big challenge.
We did the exact same thing where we were washing, we left clothes in the dressing room, we grabbed them, steamed them. Every time someone grabbed the door handle, we were kind of right there ready to go with the gun. It was like a gun holster, right? It was like boom, 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 boom. And so, because you didn't know, right? And you just wanted to be safe. And so that was it. We had struggles too. I mean, when you work in retail, unlike most of you, I guess, is like, David, I'm sure you guys, we're not wearing 8 hours a day. So we've gotten used to it. It's a struggle, but when customers come in, it's hard for them because, they don't wear it like we do. And it's now it's a tool, just like you need to do everything else.
And Jim, and we all agree, the customer is always right.
Right. Yeah.
Except when he doesn't wear a mask. and there's the conflict, right? I mean, as a good business, you have that principle that the customer is always right. But and that's what really caused the challenges right there.
Yeah,
and you wanted to do what the customer wanted.
Right. And yeah, you mentioned the bathrooms too. Every piece of the environment just painted. I mean, it wasn't just the clothes. It was the doorknobs. It was the handles that they may have touched when they used the bathroom. And we wrestled too in the beginning, even saying, should we open our bathrooms or should we, in state of policy, to ask to use the bathroom? Like all those little details. For us too, with the rental equipment, because our bikes are such a key revenue stream for us, we had to have a good plan in place for that, because transitioning those bikes from one person to the next, that was important for us to pay attention to and make sure that was a big part of what we were processing in that clean and all that too. So
we did the same thing. What we ended up doing though is we killed any rental of anything with a tent. Anything that you're going to be inside, we just didn't want any liability of any kind. My insurance company reached out and sent me a new clause to add to the rental agreement. And so we just kind of minimized anything that you would be inside and wearing, so backpacks and things really like that we're still doing, but we're trying to, anything that was where you were sleeping inside, we just decided we weren't going to deal with it.
Jim, that's a great point. That liability question just kept coming up, right?
Right.
And there was no answers. None. I mean, what if someone could prove that they got the virus from my store?
Right.
And that still hasn't been answered.
We all know waivers are more of a trying to get people to not sue you than anything else, because how well they hold up in court is a whole nother thing. But Micah, I wanted to ask about you, because with all these safety procedures and trying to figure it out for customers coming in and inside retail shop, what does it look like in the outdoor environment and trying to put on a race with participants?
Yeah, no question. It's going to be different, but the good thing is that we get to learn. We're outdoors in that UV light, in the wind. We're not an indoor space. So as we become more knowledgeable about the virus and how it spreads, and we know now that being outdoors is better than being indoors. But that doesn't really stop us from all kinds. We'll have hand sanitizing, we'll have hand washing stations. We'll try to physically distance at the start. We'll have a lot of signage, just like you do indoors. We'll have that signage and the tape on the road outside, as well as we get the riders started off in small groups and things like that. We're dealing with some stuff that's a little bit different. Riders really can't race with a mask on. So we're going to have people at the start line before the racing. They'll have face coverings, and afterwards we have to go through a whole separate thing with our aid stations. We had a whole planned aid station. Some of these days, day 2 is 50 miles on the mountain bike, and that's a long day. You have to provide some level of technical and aid station support out there. So we've been drilling down into little things. What do we have to do at an aid station? We're not going to just let everyone grab water out of some big 5-gallon jug. It's very specific, single-use bottles, individualized packaged food handled by volunteers with gloves and masks. It's a very specific plan that you have to implement for an event like this. And we've got to make sure that people are coming in from from all over. So not only do we have people coming in here from Colorado Springs, we have people from the greater state of Colorado, and even some people from out of state that are going to be coming in to this event. And so going back to your waiver comment, Becky, we will have some level of code of conduct that everyone will sign before they come in to the event, before they come into Colorado Springs, just so the expectations are very clear before they come in, where they have to wear a mask. Please keep your distance at the start line area. I'm not going to come into Colorado Springs with, if I have tested positive for COVID in the last 2 weeks, just things so everyone kind of gets on the same page when they do come together for this event. And so I think that hopefully will make everyone feel a little bit more comfortable, but it will also make sure that everyone kind of understands what we're doing to try to keep everybody safe. And if we're not doing it, we expect them to call us out on it. So very clear expectations for everyone involved.
Hey, Becky, I wanted to add something, and I don't know if Jim and some of the other guys had this same experience, but over the years, because of this, we've gravitated towards working with one of the larger banks in the country because it was just easy to do things online and all that kind of stuff. But during this event, when I needed my bank, I couldn't get a hold of them at all. Zero, no contact, zip-bola. And it's one of the big threes. I'm not going to totally bash them, but all the big banks were just totally done. And I reached out to a small bank in town, and I got such great service right away and ended up being able to get the PPP loan. They rescued me. And so it really taught me how important it is to have relationships locally. And we're going to be moving our entire banking and everything to that local bank because having those relationships has become highlighted so valuable here about everything that we want to do. So I just want to plug this idea that shopping local is beyond just retail. It's really thinking about all the different aspects, and having a local bank for your business was instrumental during this event.
I want to get back to what kind of assistance you all have received in just a moment, but I wanted to touch base on, Micah's talking about people coming in and the code of conduct, and I saw just in the last couple of days what Visit Colorado Springs has put out with their peak safety for tourism and for tourists coming in. And I wanted to bring up tourism. Tourism has definitely taken a hit, but we also know the outdoor recreation and our outdoor spaces have become incredibly popular during this time. So there's this tension. And I wanted to ask you all about your customer base. I'm sure some of it is tourism, some of it is locals. How you've dealt with your customers and what you've seen with tourism and the impacts of tourists, and how are they responding to our local restrictions?
It's funny, I'm trying to, we obviously don't track people, but I feel like we've seen as many tourists now this past couple months as we had a year ago, to be honest with you. Now, maybe it's just because of the nature of our business, right? There's not a lot of other things to go and do. So if you want to get in the backcountry, which is all your choices, then coming to see any one of us on the panel is required, right? And as a result, maybe there's less people, but because there's a single thing to do, which is to go hike or bike and, get in the backcountry, then we're seeing maybe a disproportional share of it. But yeah, and everybody's been respectful. I mean, it's a big hassle. We really put we become the mask police, right? And it's really uncomfortable for our staff and puts a lot of pressure on the owners, or people that with authority are willing to exercise it. But generally, I would say everyone's been great overall, handful of issues. But from a tourist perspective, I haven't seen a big difference. The other thing I would mention, as I mentioned before, is I've seen more people who have just moved here in the last 2 months than I've ever in the last 6 years since I've owned Mountain Chalet. It's an incredible number of people who have just moved to the Springs.
Yeah, for us, we're probably seeing. I think we're seeing about the same amount of tourists. That there's segments that are different. So the business tourism is zero. I mean, it's like non-existent. Corporate type stuff and things like that. That business travel, that's just like, it's nothing there. But family, oh my God, family stuff is crazy. And I think, and that was one of the things it dawned on me is our business typically isn't a family thing. Fly fishing is complicated, and for most families, they've got intramurals, school, they've got summer activities, they've got scouts, they've got on and on and on about all these things that families can do, birthday parties, whatever it is, during the summer. They get really busy during the summer. Well, you can't do any of those things, but you can go outside. And so that we got a new segment of the broad spectrum, this family segment, which is usually a decline for us. Usually about the age of 30 is when our age group curve goes down, and it doesn't go back up until 45. So there's this chasm there, which is called family. And that group came into our store in groves that we've never seen before.
Well,
go ahead, Micah.
I was going to say, from the event standpoint, the event was really built to attract tourism. The whole idea was to bring people into town, show off the trail system on the Pikes, in the Pikes Peak region, and really push, a lot of people to want to travel to Colorado Springs to be in the outdoors. And that was the entire idea of it. We got a LART grant here with the city to help pay for that. This event, and as well as a matching marketing grant from the Colorado Tourism Office. So that really was our plan for the very beginning. What we've noticed is this year is that we're getting a lot more people from Colorado. I would say in terms of the people registered right now, 65% of the people that are registered for this event right now are from the state of Colorado, about 35% outside of the state. A number of people have asked for refunds that are traveling from distant places, and we said no problem. You can either have an entry fee in 2021, or you can get your money back, either one. And so we're very focused on tourism. What it has made us do, though, is focus much more on trying to push out information about Colorado Springs, about the Pikes Peak region, through virtual ways, through a newsletter, through social media, through all of these other things, trying to capture more video content of riders riding. We just did a shoot in Palmer Park a few weeks ago with some cyclists, and we've been pushing that out thanks to Huberger Motors and getting that out there and pushing it. So we've really switched from, hey, bring a bunch of people in 2020 and let them experience this, to, okay, we're going to just turn this into a big virtual advertisement for Colorado Springs and the Pikes Peak region, and really do everything we can do to capture as much content as we can leading up to the event, as well as at the 2020 event, so we can push people to come here in future years. So that's really been our pivot, is trying to use that content and bring people in the future.
Thanks, Micah. And I think with tourists coming, and with the focus on families, and with the uptick of outdoor recreation, period, we've seen a lot of new users. I know at PPRA we get data from the different land managers, and they're seeing brand new people out there. And I'm wondering how that's impacting everybody's supply issues and vendor issues. I know I've heard bikes are hard to get right now, and I know for Anglers Covey, some of our intro packages have really been hit. So talk just briefly about that, if you guys would.
Yeah, at first in April, it was about how quickly can we cancel orders, and so we were like canceling, and then all of a sudden May hit, and it was like, can I get that order back? Can I get it? So it was like the complete opposite. And so on their end, supply chain, China was shutting down. So a lot of factories and things like that, getting that product over on that slow boat from China, whatever it is. And so it became a real big struggle for a lot of different products. And boats, for example, a lot of canoes and kayaks that we sell are all made in USA, and all their factories shut down. And so from Hobie to Old Town and some of these other companies. So it was really, really challenging to get that. And we ended up placing an order with Old Town that we just got yesterday, and we placed it in May. So, and we've been out of kayaks for about a month. So that's a problem where we're having a hard time maintaining sales because we're out of certain items. But I got ahead of it. Fortunately, I know other businesses are challenged with a lot of different supply chain issues, which is kind of a problem. The other thing that we're going to see, though, is for next year, we're going to see a redo. So a lot of companies, instead of having a full new 2021 look, it's like there's like 10% or 20% of their whole lineup is new, and they're reusing 80% of what was this year.
Yeah.
So expect that.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I'm checking the time, and we want to leave a lot of time for Q&A. So just briefly, let's talk about what are the positive things you've seen from the pandemic? What are some things you can point to that maybe surprised you that you've used as an opportunity to enhance your business?
Yeah, if I could speak from kind of again, that newbie perspective, a new business coming into the scene, trying to find a good value spot or place in the culture that already exists. We've seen something I don't think we could have planned. And, Jim talked about selling off his rental equipment because he needed that as a different revenue stream. For us, without really planning mass inventory strategies, our rental fleet is a huge revenue stream for us. And so we actually saw a lot of the shops in town diverting customers to us or calls to us. And it wasn't a referral that they're the only guys in town. It was no, these guys have quality bikes, and right now they're serving the community. That was really, really powerful for us, just to feel that kind of acceptance. And it's hard too. Hopefully, as this thing norms out, right? I think Jim calls it the black swan. I hope that we continue into the norm with a good place, that we fit in this outdoor culture as it grows. I think the outdoor culture of Colorado Springs only has room to grow, and hearing what Micah's doing and really promoting our city nationally, that's huge for me. I think if my goal is just to open a business, I feel like it's a little bit old, hat. And I think right now, my hope is to really come alongside what's going on and create bigger movement in the outdoor culture here. Because when we create a movement, everyone really gets to benefit from it. And so some of the positives we've seen, and I'm really grateful to the way that other shops have accepted us or at least saw the value or seen the value in what we bring. And we're excited for that.
Thanks, Jason.
I'd say this is that I agree with Jason a lot in that, part of the reason we chose Mountain Chalet is because, the Colorado Springs is like this, I don't even know how to say it. It's like it's a known unknown, right? I say this all the time where Denver and Boulder get all the accolades, but Colorado Springs is by far the best city. Any city that's, or maybe we're top 50 city population wise. Nobody can compete with us from a recreational perspective by far. I say this all the time. You can, and within 30 minutes of Mountain Chalet, you can do every sport for which we provide gear for. And that includes ice climbing, which most people don't even know, which is fine. But, with the peak in the back, and so we can backcountry ski, everything that we do, you can do within a half hour. So that's the positive by far. And to your point, if we get, what would be great is to get these new bikers, new hikers, new rock climbers, whatever it ends up being, new fly fishermen, right? And has become advocates, not only for the sport, but for outdoor recreation as a whole. So they're supporting all of our nonprofits, supporting public lands, and putting all that together, then we've created a bigger, better community, and our pie's grown. And with that, you know, our ability to have a greater voice and a greater impact, not only on the business side, but the public land side and the access side is just huge. And if we can get that, that would be great. I would just like sure it'd be great if we collectively do it. Like Jason says, we can collectively just keep all these new people in the bubble of outdoor rec, and then support all the things around it. We'll just be better for it, in my mind.
Absolutely. And teaching them great outdoor ethics while we're at it, for sure. And we're going to pivot now to our Q&A time.
But I wanted to bring up one thing really quick, though. I was being patient. The biggest thing, and I can't get more excited. Let's just say that President Trump signed a deal that he's going to invest $20 billion in the tech industry for companies to expand and to grow their resources. How many people would apply for that, right? Well, he did that. He did that a couple days ago. He signed the Great American Outdoors Act. There's going to be $20 billion annually allocated for the outdoors to restore the outdoors and improve it. And one of the things that we have to do as a community is find ways to go after that cash, because there's going to be, just like any industry, there's going to be people vying for that. And it's going to be a unique opportunity. And I can't tell you how big a deal it is.
All right.
Massive.
On that, we're gonna shift it over. Emma, are there some questions that you saw?
Yes, there are. Thanks, Becky. And thanks to the panelists. I know you could probably talk about this stuff all day, and most of us would like to listen to it, but we want to keep with the time. So one of the questions was, I'm going to paraphrase this. Besides the standards like staying on trail, picking up trash, etc., what are practices we can employ and share with others coming into our community that will leave our trails and outdoor spaces in better shape in 5 years than they are now? Becky, can you pick someone to ask that?
Yeah, Jim, do you want to address that from Mountain Chalet's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's certainly one of them. I think a couple of quick things. One is definitely leave no trace is an important mantra to follow. And for those who don't know what that is, I recommend just Googling it and finding it. It would be one. Staying on trail as, you know, the ecosystems, when you go off trail and you impact those, are irreparable or take years and decades to repair. So staying on trail is absolutely important. The other thing I would say is that we tend to always go to the same places. So one of the things that we do at Mountain Chalet is we recommend places that most people don't think about going, right? We all want to do a 14er and, you know, go to the Continental Divide, but going down to the wet mountains and going over the Terrials, right in our backyard, that don't see the same amount of people, it's a great time to explore, get out, spread out, and use the existing trails there, but they're less impacted. The other one I will add, which is one of the most uncomfortable ones, is pay attention to where you use a restroom. That's a very impactful thing, and I don't know if you guys, if the rest of the panel sells it, but there's a thing called the WAG bag, which is I won't get into, but it takes care of digging, rather than digging holes, and it's an important aspect of being outdoors. It's really important in the climbing community. So paying attention to those things is what I'd say. But one of the things I would ask people is take an opportunity to go explore. You'll be surprised how much Colorado has to offer, and you can be out there by yourself.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Emma, do we have time for one more?
Yep, time for one more, and I want to announce the winner of the raffle. It's Bobby from Kinship Landing. So, yay, Bobby, if you could send me your address privately in the chat, I will send you a gift card to El Magre. So the last question that we have time for is, with so much tourism, the extreme love and loyalty for Colorado, and the opportunity to build almost culture sales, have you pivoted your focus to more e-commerce to broaden your range and increase revenues and stay connected with customers even when they leave their vacation? That was a long question.
That was a long question. I'm going to throw that over to David. As far as e-commerce and customer loyalty, and how do you capture those tourists?
Yeah, that's a challenge because, you know, in the e-com world, we're up against Amazon and all the really, really big players like REI and just other groups. And so it's pretty challenging to kind of keep their attention. And so the focus always has to be what we're expertise on, and that's the local area. No one can replace Jim or myself or whatever on knowing, you know, like for me, what flies are working this afternoon that's going to help you catch that big fish. Or for Jim, where's that trail that you don't have 20 million people hiking up and down, right? And so it's kind of that kind of thing. And so trying to relate to them in what they need. I've changed, you know, we've discovered that no one really wants to buy a fly rod. They want to go fly fishing. And so it's kind of that attitude of trying to help them understand that they need to come here because we have amazing stuff. But we've got to keep that stuff amazing for sure.
All right, thank you for keeping that brief because now we've got to wrap it up. All right, you guys have been amazing. I'd like everybody to just spend just a real brief moment giving your closing statements. But before we do that, I really appreciate all of you, all of your perspectives. We're going to have addresses for these folks on these slides, but you can find them. Google Anglers Covey, Mountain Chalet, Pikes Peak Apex, and Routes Outfitter to support these local folks. So David, you're on the screen. We could start with you. Oh, okay, there we go.
Okay, well, am I?
Yep, she's pulling up your screen.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, well, Anglers Covey's your fly fishing headquarters. You know, get out, go fly fishing. We know a lot of different places that you can go, and be glad to help anyone get started. Free classes every Saturday. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Okay,
Just share small amount. All right. Next, we will have whichever slide you bring up, Emma. There we go, Micah, with the Pikes Peak Apex.
Yeah, well, hey, please go to our website, pikespeakapex.com. And we're really lucky that we've got some great supporters in terms of sponsors here. They're a local SRAM Corporation with RockShox, Huberger Subaru, as well as GE Johnson, Assos Clothing. So we have a lot of people that have really supported us. Visit Colorado Springs, the Sports Corps. And it's all brought to you by the Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance. So please check out our website, spread the word. I'm not going to ask you to come as a spectator this year. If you'd like to come as a rider, we do have some spots open, and come check it out. We expect that this is an event that will be a legacy event for Colorado Springs and will only grow from here.
Thanks, Micah. All right, Jason.
All right, so Routes Outfitter, we're just really excited to be a part of this city and what's going on. And you've heard me say the term outdoor culture a couple different times. I think at the heart of what we're really trying to come alongside is that outdoor culture. And I think outdoor recreation is an expression of that culture, but I think that outdoor culture actually has a mindset that's much deeper. And you'll see it in our values here in the slide, you know, that people care, concern, that play, care, concern, the environment, community spirit. I think that there's a real holistic nature that's at the depth of our outdoor culture. So we're trying to provide a shop that really leans into that. And we're hoping that it creates value on that west side and really helps that pie grow, to Jim's point. So 3131 West Colorado Avenue. On that west side, come by and visit us, say hi, introduce yourself. We'd love to meet you and get to know you.
Thanks, Jason. All right, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of in the same vein, Mountain Chalet, where, in Colorado Springs, is one of the best outdoor rec communities, period. And just being a part of it and participating is awesome. We love to share our passion. We are users as well as retailers. Come in and talk to us. I tell my staff all the time, we do not sell, we educate. And if you have questions on anything, gear, places to go, don't hesitate to come into the shop. We don't mind. We are gearheads by nature, and we love talking about gear. And so just don't get us started because we'll probably bore you to death. But come on in, see us, ask us questions, and embrace the community of outdoors for Colorado Springs, right? Mountain Chalet.
Thanks, Jim. And I threw Emma for a loop because I was supposed to talk about PPORA first and I didn't, but here we are. So PPORA stands for Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance. And as you've heard, we have an amazing outdoor recreation culture here. And our goal is to bring everybody together and really strengthen this outdoor recreation industry for the Pikes Peak region. You can see our pillars here. And we have an outdoor industry leadership summit coming up on Tuesday. It's a two-parter virtual event, Tuesday, August 11th. And then again on the next Thursday, August 20th. And we're really looking at our outdoor recreation in the Pikes Peak region and seeing, you know, the challenges that we have. Are we at risk or are we resilient? And we're talking to land managers to really tackle our issues and come together as a community. We're going to look at other models to address that as well. So you can register at our website, ppora.org. Thank you again for the Chamber and EDC for hosting us today. All right, I think that's everything. Emma, did you have anything left?
Well, now we're just going to move on to positive information from our members. We have a couple announcements. Thank you so much, panelists. You are all really pillars of this community, and we're so appreciative, myself included, who loves to be outside of you guys and the things that you do for our community and in your retail shop. So thanks again. So I just want to give a couple minutes to our members. So the first one, actually, I am going to allow you guys to unmute yourself. So Dr. Barb, if you can unmute yourself and announce your member announcement, please.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks, that was a great presentation. Moving along with the outdoor theme, the golf courses have been open all through this time. We've been on the golf courses walking miles and miles. So we are so excited to announce we're having our first annual Becky Baker Foundation golf tournament called Golf for Prevention. And those of you who don't know us, we're a newer 501c3. We gift mammograms and thermograms. And part of what happened for us is donations dropped off, as you can imagine, and some of the mammogram and thermogram centers even closed. So we weren't even able to send people to those. Cancer did not stop during any of this. So we decided, let's do some golf tournaments. And Rick, my husband and founder of this, was a pro golfer, has done a lot of golf tournaments. And we went and talked to the Broadmoor, and they said, we'd love to have you. So our tournament is October 5th. It's going to be amazing. We've partnered with Pro Players Association. They're going to provide 30 professional, most of them retired NFL football players that are going to be the fifth man on every team. We've also partnered, Rick is sponsored by Ping, and every player is going to get a brand new Ping golf bag. We have some fabulous stuff for everybody. So we're excited about this. We are still looking for sponsors. So if your business is someone who wants to sponsor, if you go to the BeckyBakerFoundation.org website, the golf tournament's right there, and you click on that, it goes to another website where you can register teams. There's sponsorship opportunities and all of that. So 2 months away from yesterday, so we're excited and hope to see some of you there. Thank you.
Jess Boland, do you want to give your announcement? And thanks, Dr. Barb.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with everybody, a few months ago, I announced that we did have scholarships available with the Independence Center CNA training program. And there were 38 scholarships provided by the Colorado, the Health Initiative. We got a grant from them, and we've used them all. And we have just a really neat story. Out of all the 38, 3 of them were in one household, one family together, and they lived in Pueblo. They traveled to our downtown location here on South Tejon, got their CNA training in 4 weeks, and then they each got jobs And the father had been unemployed during COVID, and now the two daughters were younger, and one of them, this is her first job as a CNA, certified nursing assistant. So it was just a really neat success story I wanted to share with everyone.
Thank you, Jess. That's a great story. Bobby, can you speak about Kinship Landing?
Sure. Thanks, guys, for presenting today. And Jim, thanks for the ideas. I'm always thinking as people come in and through our hotel, when we push them out to the trails and we push them out to your shops, how do we make sure that our outdoor recreation assets are going to be in better shape than if those guys didn't come here? Because we all know the trails were a lot quieter 10 years ago than they are now. And we want to look back on this day in the future and be really proud that we suggested our guests go hike in Terriall or wherever it is. I just wanted to simply say thank you so much for all of your support the last few years as we've been developing this hotel. We're going to open this November or early December. We're very excited to welcome our first guests. And one thing I just want to bring attention to this community is we are actively forming partnerships with people that we can know the quality and standard of hospitality, whether that's on the river or in the shop, is going to match with what we want to offer at our hotel. So if you have products, services that you think really make sense, that represent Colorado Springs and the best of what we have to offer, we'd love to help connect our guests to your shops and services and products and that kind of things. And we are opening up event space and bookings now, so you can chat with me if you are interested in that. Thanks.
Thanks, Bobby. And the last one is Chris with Front Range Insurance. Are you on, Chris?
I am. So COVID has affected us a little more dramatically through families and individuals. Most of all, employers and employees, we have seen losing insurance, people that have been working for companies for 20 years and more. So we have tried to find ways to create partnerships in the community, not only so that we can get access to these companies to try and find ways for them not to eliminate their benefits or have to lose these employees, but also be able to give back to the community on anything we're able to do. So we have our first collaboration between Tri-Lakes Cares and Front Range Insurance, and we are donating 100% of our first month's premiums and commissions that we receive to this charity and any future charities that we can partner with. The reason I announce this is I want to know if anyone else in this group can refer me to groups, nonprofits, and charities that I could talk to about becoming part of this, so that not only can we help companies to save their benefits, to change them so they can provide them to families and employees, but we can also turn this into a way to give back to the community. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Well, that's it for this program today. I appreciate everyone attending, and the panelists, thanks again. I hope everyone has a good rest of your week and a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.